Hi, Aquarius, Sun and Rising. Welcome to your January 2022 Astro Update. It's Raina here. I don't know about you, but I always feel like January is that vibe of moving forward and a fresh start. Obviously, it's New Year, so it makes sense that that would be the case. But sometimes we have retrogrades in January that kind of keep that from being true for us 100%. And also, depending on the individual sign's chart, there can be other things that suggest unfinished business. And I think with Aquarius, this is really highlighted. We do have a Venus retrograde following us into the new year. And we do have a Mercury retrograde that starts mid-month in January. But just in terms of the concentration of energy in Capricorn, which is a sign that precedes you, the bulk of the transits are occurring in the 12th house. And this is the last house of the zodiac. And if we just look at this eternal wheel, that is kind of the closure, the tying things up before the new cycle. Not to say there's not going to be any first house stuff happening, because, of course, in January you have your solar return. So the sun goes there. We have Mercury going into your sign. Let me just go down the line here to make my case. So as I had stated, we do have Venus retrograde following us into 2022. And in your case, because it is in Capricorn, it's in your 12th house. So this could really be interesting on multiple levels. I'm sure I've talked about this in the December forecast, but Venus in the 12th house retrograde might be soulmate or twin flames activity, and possibly even quote unquote meeting that person for the first time, but having this old well, I don't know about meeting them for the first time. I think maybe people reappearing in your life. From what I understand with twin flames, there can be a lot of stormy or drama filled breakups and getting back together and that kind of thing. So maybe it's more of a twin flames situation where you are reuniting with that person. And if you're currently with a new partner, you may be tempted to take that relationship offline. I'm talking about the reunited situation, and have it be clandestine. And it doesn't even mean that you're doing anything with that person, but simply that you don't want other people to know that you have, reunited in the sense that you're talking to each other again, not that you're back together necessarily. So on the 2nd of January, we have a new moon in the 12th house at 12 degrees of Capricorn. And this can indicate that there are new beginnings with matters connected to your spiritual life. I hesitate to say your impractical life, but that really is a good way of putting it, because it's not your day-to-day life. It's not the opposite house, the 6th house, which deals with health and work and things like that. It's the other things that you need in life to feel like your life is meaningful. And I think inspiration can certainly be part of the 12th house, and finding new activities that promote that. However, it could also be that you're really planning out your new year. I mean, I, uh, 2022, not just the new year. Uh, and it's almost like the 12th house is the womb of creation, so that when you have your new moon in Aquarius on February 1st, it's like you're hitting the ground running and you have everything in place of what you want to accomplish in the upcoming 12 months. On the same day, Mercury goes into your sign. So Mercury's in the first, the new moon is in the 12th. And Mercury in the first house can have you thinking about your life. I think of the first house as the catch-all house for all areas of your life. And Mercury here can have you kind of thinking about those things on a more practical level. The first house is the house of the body, of the self. And it has that kind of, I was going to say, that solidity to it. It's not an earth house because it's ruled by Aries, but it is the house that begins your chart again. And so we think of that fresh energy of planning your next phase in life. And the fact that it's falling on the same day as the new moon makes it even more significant to me. On the 14th, we have a Mercury retrograde at 10 degrees of Aquarius in your sign in that first house. And of course, this is a general forecast, so mileage may vary from chart to chart, but this is easiest for me. I always marvel at those astrologers who are able to kind of really bring it down to the different degrees and tell you which house it's in. But I tried to do that, and I realized how risky it would be for somebody like me to do that. So Mercury retrograde, rethinking these things that you've already begun to, plan or want to plan about. What are you going to do? How are they going to manifest for you? And do you really want to do them? That's really the key. Because sometimes we have dreams or we have desires and they're not necessarily viable, or maybe they will be at some time, but not, the timing isn't right now, or something like that. On the 17th, we have a full moon at 27 degrees of Cancer. And this will fall in your 6th house of work. So this is a practical place. This is what I was alluding to when I was talking about the area of the day-to-day life. A full moon, though, can bring things to some kind of a closure. So if you are leaving a job, maybe that is why you're focused more on the spiritual instead of the practical, because there's something that is ending on the practical level for you. For instance, somebody who's retiring and who wants to still be of service. The 12th house, I've heard different houses represented with representing volunteer work, and I think the 12th house would be one of them because it's like very altruistic kinds of endeavors. So maybe you're going to start some volunteer work as your day-to-day work ends. A full moon in the 6th house could be some sort of awareness about your workplace, about what's going on there, and if there have been any problems, that might be kind of like realizing what's going on behind the scenes. And also, it might even be like a promotion or something along those lines. On the 18th, the next day, your ruler, Uranus, goes direct at 10 degrees of Taurus, another fixed sign that is coming after you. So that's your fourth house of home and family. This is an area that what just came into my mind is up in the air, meaning that anything can happen. And it all depends on individual circumstances, obviously. People with Uranus transiting their fourth house in general can find that they are moving, that they're living in multiple places during that transit. And the transit of Uranus is about 7 years or so. That they're not like settled into one place, or they think, okay, this is it, and then they move again. But that's not going to be true for everybody. It's just that there is a desire for more freedom. And when it comes to the home front, it can be someone who doesn't want to be tied down to one location, perhaps. And Uranus is connected to technology, so sometimes the digital nomad, if you are in fact traveling and you don't, yeah, and that's interesting that that's coming the day after the full moon in the sixth house, because maybe you're changing where you work. The sixth house can be the workplace, and maybe that's ending and you're going to be going remote full time. And it's funny because, a lot of people these days, it seems like it's the opposite, where they have been remote and now they're going back into the office. Well, maybe you're doing it backwards for some reason. But in general, this really deals with breaking free from the constraints of domestic life, which Aquarius might already be well versed in. Maybe you're an expert in that. But, some of you, I'm sure, have had very stable family lives, and now you feel that need for freedom. And that might look different depending on who you are. On the 19th, the sun goes into your sign, so this is your solar return period. Your actual solar return is going to be on the day that the sun is at the exact degree of Aquarius for you. And I'm talking specifically about sun in Aquarius people. And that might not be on your actual birthday. It might be a day before or after. But anyway, so the sun is in your sign. That's great. First house, vitality. The sun in the 12th for the past month may have felt kind of a little bit draining, or just like you didn't want to be front and center, and now you might want to come out of your hibernation. On the 24th, Mars goes into Capricorn, so Mars has been in the house that you rule, I guess, the 11th house, in Sagittarius until the 24th, and now it goes into that 12th house. So you may be working behind the scenes with something. You have so much energy in that 12th house, so maybe there is some stuff that you don't want to bring out yet. And interestingly, with Venus retrograde there, I wonder, because Mars can be very sexy, if there is some kind of a clandestine affair going on with somebody from your past. This can be a restless influence. And this is something where Hatha Yoga can really make all the difference, where you can employ spiritual or combine spiritual activity with physical movement. and find a real connection there. On the 25th, and I would just say, since Mars is very active and the 12th house is very solitary, um, long walks that take you into places where you're in solitude, like the woods, or just if you live in a place like I do where it gets cold in the winter, the one nice thing about it is that a lot of people are wussies and they stay off the street. And so you can have a lot of solitude as you take walks. On the 25th, Mercury goes into, wait for it, Capricorn. It's retrograding, and it started out in Aquarius. Now it is back in that 12th house. So you see what I was talking about at the beginning. There's so much crowded into that 12th house that to me it's like there might be unfinished business, something that you need to wrap up. But also on the spiritual level, I mean, we can't ignore that definite part of the 12th house, which is your spiritual life. And with Aquarius, although you're very intuitive, you may also be very cerebral. And that can sometimes be an obstacle for being able to perceive things in a more holistic way, because I've just and I'm not saying that the people that I've observed are actual Aquarians, but I just see sometimes people who are highly intelligent, especially when they have a scientific or mathematical bent, they just have this really big blind spot, brick wall that they hit because they're just too much in that. It's almost like a materialistic intellect. There was a spiritual teacher named Chognam Trungpa. I don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly. He had a book called Spiritual Materialism. And I'm thinking of intellectual materialism, where you're gathering a lot of, information, and to you that's your wealth, but it can only take you so far. So these kinds of issues may come up for you. Maybe you're having your spiritual awakening. I always talk about those people in their early 40s who are having their opposition between who have their natal Uranus in Scorpio, and they're experiencing that. But there are other types of spiritual awakenings. I don't think we have just one in our lifetime. I think we have, different steps that we take. At least that's been true for me. Okay. This can be very intuitive. Mercury in the 12th. You may not be thinking of things that are very practical, but they may have value that transcends the worldly concerns. There may even be kind of psychic hits from, memories from other lifetimes that are seeping through, like the veil is thin with all these planets there. And then on the 29th, Venus goes direct at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So Venus starts to resolve herself in the 12th, whatever that has meant for you. Another thing that I didn't mention with Venus in the 12th house is artistic projects, because I did a video about the natal Venus in the 12th house, and it was really kind of informative for me when I was seeking out the information, because I like to, I already knew some things about that placement, but not all of them. And they were talking about the artist who kind of keeps their art to themselves. And that's kind of what the 12th house is all about, is that sense of keeping things, it's very secretive, 12th house. But it's solitary. So that doesn't have to be, we don't have to just make it into something bad. It can just be that you don't want to share something with other people, whether it's your artistic creations before you bring it out into the public, and have that big reveal, whether it is a love relationship that maybe you want to nurture in private. You don't want other people's putting their 2 cents on your love life, these kinds of things. So this Venus direct may be somebody from your past who you've been getting back together. I hesitate to use the word reuniting because people automatically think you're jumping back into a relationship. I just mean reuniting, that you're reconnecting, I should say. And maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's meant to be. Even if it's a twin flame situation, maybe it's on again, off again because of the mission that both people are on that does not necessarily jibe with one another all the time. I don't know. But anyway, that's what I have for you, Aquarius. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care.